Oh, how's everybody? Good. Well, I'm Andrew. This is Fossil Friday, and happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, happy New Year. It's been a while. So, yeah, let's talk about fossils. Wyoming, it has lots of fossils. Well, here's one. Here's a stromatolite. Yeah, that's from Wyoming, and well, nothing in here, and nothing in here either. So here's one. That's a Wyoming fossil. It's a trilobite. And here's another one. That's a piece of wood from Wyoming. Here's an ammonite from Wyoming, and no, nothing here. Nothing there either. It's no, nothing yet. Here's one. No, that's from Montana. I guess that's pretty close. No, nothing. Nothing yet. Okay, so there's a little bit of a disparity here, but I can explain. So, see, a lot of the fossils that we have in the front part of our museum, the Life Through Time, aren't from Wyoming. They come from all sorts of different places, like Germany and Australia, Morocco, all sorts of fantastic places where you can find some pretty incredible things. Not so much from Wyoming. In fact, you might have noticed that in any museum that you go to, your hometown museum, you'll see fossils from other parts of the world that aren't necessarily from your hometown. Well, why is that? Well, there's actually a really good reason for it, and it's called an unconformity. So an unconformity is a geologic term, which means that there's maybe two layers of rock sitting right on top of each other. But the time between when those layers of rocks were set down could be millions, if not billions of years apart. So fossils can be completely absent from certain places, like say the Northeast, like Pennsylvania, New York, my own home state, Ohio. We have lots of great fossils from 400 million years ago and 300 million years ago, but then there's a gap. You don't find fossils of things like dinosaurs because they're just not preserved there. And then the most recent fossil things you can find are things like mammoths and mastodons that technically couldn't even be considered fossils in some cases because they lived so recently. So sometimes these gaps exist. Why is that the case? Well, there's numerous reasons. Could be erosion. Maybe the environment during these times wasn't right for preserving fossils. They might have been removed by the movement of glaciers. There's all sorts of theories as to why unconformities exist. So how does that affect us in Wyoming? Well, just about 80 miles away from here in Cody, Wyoming, there's a spot called the Great Unconformity. And what makes it so great is that the one layer of rock, the bottom layer, was laid down about, 2.2 billion years ago. The layer of rock right on top of it is from 500 million years ago. So to put that in perspective, there's a gap of over 2 billion years. So to put that in light, there's like this stromatolite right here and the fossil over here, this trilobite. Between these two spots in the museum here in Wyoming, this represents 2 billion years of time that isn't represented here in our state. Well, that's pretty interesting. And it's a loss because a lot of really cool things were happening during that time. Small single-celled organisms were growing and multiplying and becoming complex life or multicellular creatures. 2 billion years of time that, well, we'd really like to have a record of. But the good news is we've got a great record from 500 million years onward. We can find fossils and remnants of critters from all during that time. So how does that affect us here at the Wyoming Dinosaur Center? Well, we don't have land that encompasses the whole 500 million years. We tend to specialize in the dinosaur times, the Triassic, the Jurassic, and Cretaceous. But even then, there is a little bit of an unconformity going on. So, perfect. This is a belemnite from the Sundance Formation of the Middle Jurassic period, and this is a chevron tailbone from a Diplodocus from the Morrison Formation of the Late Jurassic period. Now, these layers are right on top of each other. They're separated, these fossils are only separated by a couple of feet, maybe 20 or 30 feet at the most, and yet there's a difference of several million years between the two. Now, is that an unconformity? Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's the same period, but there is a gap in the rock where the environment and the animals changed, and there's no record of it in the rocks themselves. So I guess you could consider that an unconformity, but the concept is there's just gaps in the fossil memory and the rock memory of this area, and we have to piece it together as best we can. What happens in those gaps, we might never know for sure, but the information we collect here, and coupled with the information collected at other museums across the country and around the world, helps us put together the entire geologic picture book with most of those gaps filled in. So, gaps in memory occur. They happen, memory gaps in our own minds. There are gaps between episodes of Fossil Friday. But the important thing is, there wasn't a lack of things going on. In fact, there was a whole bunch going on during those gaps. It's just not preserved. Well, geologically, there's not much we can do about that. But in terms of Fossil Friday, we're back. We're here. We're going to be doing our regular series once again every Friday around this time. So be sure to like this video, share it, leave your comments, let us know what you'd like to see, and as always, tune in. We've got some pretty big things coming down the road, and some small things as well, but, well, more on that later. I think I'd better make my exit. So good to see you all. So until next time, this is Andrew at the Wyoming Dinosaur Center keeping your Friday fossiliferous.